Hi, my name is Helen. Welcome to Stories from the Art Room. In this second episode, I continue to take up a proposal made at the end of a famous essay by Gloria Steinem in 1986, where she asked, what would it be like if menstruation was something celebrated and valued in our society? Say, if it were not taboo, but valued because it was something that happened to men. In episode 1, I began a story where a young woman experiences her first menstruation, and she has a key ready to open a prepared sea chest full of presents, both practical and celebratory, on this, her special day of transition into womanhood. Today, I would like to continue this story so you can accompany her as she engages in a one-time only ritual to mark her day. A ritual that her forbearers have experienced, and then hopefully in due course for her descendant daughters to take their turn to participate in the future. So we pick up the story after Aurelia has opened her presents, laid ready for her in the sea chest. It is now late afternoon, and she roars away in a little frog-eyed sprite to a boating lake for the most important part of her two-part ceremony. Aurelia lives on Prokonossos, an island riddled with caves that have been explored for prehistoric art in hopes such treasures can be used as a tourist attraction to promote the island. A small etching thought to be of a bear has been found, but nothing spectacular. Aurelia likes potholing, especially when it's underwater, but wasn't that interested in Paleolithic stuff until today. Now she's found out something spectacular is to happen for her in one of the caves. In the sea chest, she has found a small leather-bound book containing diary entries made by her mother and other female members of her family, made after their special maiden day. Aurelia has been invited to write in her own impressions to add to theirs. In this book, Aurelia discovers that her great-grandmother once visited a deep cavern in northern Spain where a local guide gave her privileged access. Her grandma had to abseil way down and then crawl on her stomach for ages to find some lines with iron oxide rubbed into them, which had formed an image of a pregnant woman in now what's called the Chamber of Vulvas. Aurelia learns that experts believe that these painted vulvas may have been drawn by just one or maybe two women, and these women were part of a tiny population of humans roaming northwestern Europe at that time. Aurelia's mind is blown away by the possibility that most Europeans are directly descended from these prehistoric artists. Aurelia imagines seeing the cave art in situ, and she thinks the hand stencils especially must have been stunning by torchlight. Her great-grandma's diary entry says, it made her feel it was possible to reach out and almost touch our Ice Age ancestors from way back then, which forces Aurelia to think in terms of deep time. Aurelia learns a chamber of vulvas has been recreated down a cave on Proconnesus, not far from the bear etching, in a sealed off area, not generally open to the public, but special application can be made accompanied by a guide, because this cavern is reserved for girls like Aurelia, who are having their first menstruation. She knows that she too will descend into that chamber on this day, her maiden day, and then make a connection with her ancient forebearers through the symbols they drew in Spain. The Spanish etchings have been recreated as a centerpiece in this cave on Proconnesus, around which young women over generations can make their own hand stencil on the cave wall in the Paleolithic way if they wish. Aurelia has had to rehearse blowing and spitting red ochre mixed with her own saliva onto a hand. She loves the idea that a little of her own DNA would become part of the red stencil, like her own very own wave into the future. Aurelia has the ochre ready with enough water to wash her mouth out. Okay, it's not the greatest taste. She did have the option to use a metal cylinder with a straw, but Aurelia can't be doing that. She knows where she shall make a mark, which is near her mother's ancestors, where some have put their name and date in the stencil's palm space. But Aurelia will leave hers blank as a record sufficient in itself. Aurelia's instructions in the green leather-bound book say once she has completed her stencil, she is to use the route out of the cave that brings her up at the Fountain Plaza to hook up with her mum, who will be mingling and waiting with the guests. It was after sunset, but the sky was still bright. Aurelia drives on in her frog-eyed sprite until she sees a cluster of pearlescent orbs hanging by threads at various intervals under some trees at the edge of a lake. She parks on pebbles, and who should pop out of the bushes while holding one of the balloon lanterns? It was none other than her guide. Mischief, bunny, watch moment. Aurelia can't resist making a video of the mysterious magic of the lake, together with the comic strangeness of Bunny, who hands her a lantern and beckons her to follow her along a wooden pier to a moored rowing boat. A mist is rising over the water, and as it drifts, Aurelia sees a rock standing proud out on an island in the middle of the lake, where she will find a door and a downward passageway which will take her down to the caves. An hour or so later, there is a hubbub of people at the Fountain Plaza, which is a Proconnesus landmark. Her friends have found a vantage point to take photos. The plaza fountain has 2 full-sized marble figures which form the apogee of a rock formation. One figure is Demeter, the ancient Greek corn goddess, with her skin rendered sunburnt in mottled brown red marble, for she is depicted as a dishevelled, sturdy matron, near mad with desperation to recover her daughter from the underworld. In contrast, Persephone's escape from death is shown in a grave yellow pallidness, together with the corrosion on her earrings and signs of verdigris on her lopsided diadem dangling in her tangled hair. Demeter has pulled apart a rock fissure with her bare hands, and as her daughter rises up, they are caught in the act of pausing to gaze into each other's eyes, and the poignant trauma of this contact is being expressed by lifelike lenses set in their faces. In this act of recovery, Demeter unlocks the world from her preternatural winter, and her broken sandal strap releases her bare foot to crack apart ice where snowdrops push through, and the ice and the flowers are delicately represented in glass on the sculpture. Persephone's chiton, her dress, is presented in black marble. It is blurred by the plume of falling water in front of her, since the fountain has that meltwater gushing that's so distinctive of spring. There's a collective gasp when the street lamps go off and a circle of blue spotlights come on around the edge of the fountain's pool. Aurelia's family, friends and well-wishers surge closer with the illuminated water flickering on their faces. Some sit sideways at the fountain's edge or stand on cafe seats, all expectant for her arrival. The hush is shattered with a fire shower of white stars. More moments passed, and then Aurelia emerges wearing a scoop-necked wetsuit figured with gossamer wings. Her curls are damp against her forehead, and she lifts a red hand to rub ochre stains from her chin before climbing up from behind Persephone. Aurelia passes through the waterfall and then steps down into the fountain pool, where people clasped rose petals upon the waters. She grins in the camera flashings, but doesn't tarry, wanting to swish to the basin's edge to step out into her mother's embrace. There's a round of applause, calls and whistling. All cluster around mother and daughter, and then her mother shouts, "Let's eat!" And the crowd is drawn to a nearby restaurant by the wafting aroma of Aurelia's feast. I hope you've enjoyed this imagined celebration for a young woman's maiden day. Perhaps it will inspire you to do something wonderful in a similar vein for a member of your own family. Thanks for watching. I'd be interested to read your thoughts and suggestions on this, so please post them below. And so until next time, bye for now.